For a record 6 years now, Squarespace has been helping me turn my dream into reality, and that's what Squarespace does for millions of other people too. Their industry-leading website creation tools help millions of people start new careers, build new businesses, or just get things done. They're offering a special discount to viewers of this channel, so stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Okay, Sword of the Sea. Let's start here. I chose to start with this clip for a very specific reason. It's the moment that creates the clearest link between this game and its obvious inspiration, that part in Journey when you do the sand surfing thing. This isn't a case of one developer being inspired by another. The person who made this sequence is a guy by the name of Matt Nava, and at the time he was working at a studio called That Game Company. He was their principal artist, but he was also a designer, and he would later go on to found his own studio, Giant Squid, the developers of Sword of the Sea. Here he is describing the relationship between this game and that unforgettable moment in Journey.
It was just a blast and such a, learning experience for me as a designer and kind of discovering what I want to do, And what's funny was, I was like 25 or something when I did that. I was just beginning, and then that game kind of, became like what it is, like this crazy phenomenon thing. And, after that, it was like, okay, what do I do now? How do you follow that up?
Yeah. Well, you follow it up with a trilogy of games that all look to explore the artistic soundscape and design philosophies that underpin Journey, and before that, Flower. That was the goal of Giant Squid Studio when Nava and a number of other That Game Company alumni formed it back in 2013. Their first project was Abzu, which was both a stark contrast to Journey in that it was set entirely underwater rather than on sandy deserts, but it still captured the same essence of quiet awe as you were gently shuttled from one breathtaking setting to the next, reveling in the freedom of uninhibited 3D movement. In 2020, Giant Squid delivered The Pathless, a game that centered the sensation of speed in a way that few games do. Your movement was predicated on your ability to shoot targets on the move, and doing so gave you a massive speed boost, enough to spirit you towards your next target, allowing you to chain together these vast, exhilarating stretches of forward momentum. Sword of the Sea is a really fascinating amalgamation and evolution of Journey, Abzu, and The Pathless. From Journey, it takes its sand-bound post-apocalyptic setting and those moments when the sand beneath your feet would give way and you would slide a little or a long way. From Abzu, it takes the sea, the flow of water, the jellyfish, the seaweed, its creatures great and small, as well as its focus on vertical exploration. And from The Pathless, it takes its commitment to the joy of movement, understanding that if you can make getting from point A to point B fun, you've tapped into the deep knowing of what makes video games wonderful to play. Sword of the Sea is the story of someone awoken from an eternal slumber after all the fighting was done and the world had ended. Upon their awakening, they're gifted an ancient relic, a sword, but with no one left to fight, the sword takes on a new purpose. From here, the game unfolds in a way that is going to feel very familiar if you've ever played these sorts of games before, perhaps a little confusing if you haven't. There are no objective markers here in Sword of the Sea, no quest log, no map, mini or otherwise. There's no UI. There's literally nothing other than the horizon and your own curiosity, and that immediately makes these sorts of experiences so compelling because they're centered on unknown unknowns. With no frameworks to box your thinking or limit your imagination, you never know what lies around the next bend or over the next crest. Sword of the Sea, more than any other game that Nava has worked on previously, fully embraces unknown unknowns. Games like Journey, Abzu, and The Pathless invited exploration, but not to the degree that Sword of the Sea does. Here, the worlds are bigger, wider, and like Elden Ring, they use topography to hide secrets, such that the only way you might find them is to push against the edges of the map to see them. Your discoveries can be both big and small. Oftentimes, a hidden pathway might lead you to an elaborate traversal challenge offering little more than a chest of currency at the end. Other times, your curiosity may lead you to an elaborate chamber that houses the remains of a long-dead Leviathan. There isn't much in this room in terms of rewards, it's the discovery of the location itself that is its own reward. Sword of the Sea is at its absolute strongest in moments like this, when a new part of the world reveals itself and you can begin taking it in. There's such incredible imagination and beauty on display. If you're at all familiar with Giant Squid's work, then these environments shouldn't come as a surprise because you'd know to expect them. But they're surprising nonetheless, because they go beyond anything this studio has ever delivered before. The range of environments sets Sword of the Sea apart from the studio's previous works, as Sword of the Sea isn't constrained by a commitment to one or two settings alone, but to a more free-form amalgamation of many of them. This is typified by the game's titular element, the Sword of the Sea. The world is a barren and broken place, but the sword has the power to return it to its natural state, one of water. Finding the right nodes will allow you to transform specific areas from sandy desert into flowing globules of ocean water, complete with seaweed and sea creatures, and as you find more and more of these nodes, you'll gradually transform these worlds from static, sterile tundras devoid of life to expansive overland seas bristling with life and color. The process of revivifying these worlds is never complex. You'll never struggle to complete objectives in Sword of the Sea. It's a game about momentum, and Giant Squid never want to do too much to get in the way of that. They will, however, gently guide you towards environmental puzzles and traversal challenges, things like pick up this water bubble and bring it somewhere else without falling into the lava, or find a way to reach a spot so you can activate a switch, etc. It's always simple, but it's in keeping with the overall objective of the game, encouraging you to explore the world in the hope that you might chance upon one of its secrets. Still, Giant Squid know how to have a little fun too, so they added high-score trick challenges to the mix. I don't think they fit thematically at all, but honestly, I don't care. This might be the right time to talk about the central gameplay pillar of Sword of the Sea, the skating, or the surfing, or whatever you want to call it. When I interviewed Nava on the podcast, he told me that one of the most important goals that he and his team had when designing Sword of the Sea was that it should be incredibly fun to just move around. It's something they totally nailed with the Pathless, and they've nailed it again here for different reasons. At a foundational level, it feels so good to slice through the sand, or the snow, or the water, or the lava while riding this sword. Handles beautifully, and you never for a second have to contend with the controls. They are immediately effortless and effortlessly immediate. But elegant controls are just the beginning. After that, there's tricks, and they don't do anything. That doesn't matter because it's cool to do tricks while you're riding a sword, and that really is all the justification needed. Later on, upgrades allow you to do more complex tricks or jump higher, to speed boost, and even to rail grind in thin air. The game steadily meters out upgrades that enable new traversal challenges, but it's equally focused on giving you new ways to express yourself and just enjoy the flow state that the people making this game have been perfecting for the better part of 15 years. That experience led them to a realization about what was needed to really nail the surfing in Sword of the Sea, and it wasn't about the way that the player moved across environments, it was about the way that the environments moved against the player. In many places, the terrain itself will undulate as an ocean would, dynamically giving you ramps and speed boosts for no reason at all, making a simple trip across an empty expanse an exciting opportunity to freestyle some tricks. None of this would hit nearly as hard were it not for the work of the legendary Austin Wintory, the composer behind Journey, Abzu, The Pathless, like 20 other games, and now Sword of the Sea. Wintory's music here is familiar in its structure and soundscape, but the more free-form exploration that's possible here has altered his traditional composition model. This is a less scripted game than something like Journey, for example, and that's resulted in themes that can sit and simmer for longer. It's a more subtle score that catches on the ear slowly, but when you have it, you really appreciate the subtle invocations of its major themes. Sword of the Sea being less scripted is both a blessing and a curse, I think. This game is not without its big, awe-inspiring crescendos when the sights and sounds and gameplay all coalesce to blast your senses. These flow state games are typically very leveraged into these big moments. It's classic tension and release. But here in Sword of the Sea, there isn't quite as much release as there could have been. It's hard to describe, but it feels as though Giant Squid left something on the table here with this experience in a way that they haven't done before. Perhaps that's because of this game's more freeform structure. Perhaps it's the more subtle soundtrack, or perhaps it's simply because I've played all of these types of games now, and Sword of the Sea isn't pushing the genre into new territory despite being a really wonderful addition to it. Sadly, I also encountered a number of technical issues when playing the game on PC. I wasn't actually able to set the resolution above 720p, though that is clearly a bug that the developers will no doubt address quickly. More concerningly, it did feel as though the sound work was either buggy or placeholder at times, with missing or underwhelming sound effects that lessen the impact of a number of key moments. There's also a final boss encounter, which I won't spoil here, but it felt somewhat at odds with the rest of the experience, and some of the mechanics underpinning that encounter really left a lot to be desired. If this seems like minor nitpicking, that's because it is. Outside of these minor gripes, I had a wonderful 3 hours with Sword of the Sea. If that runtime is a little shocking to you, I'd remind you that Abzu was roughly the same length, and Journey was like 2 hours long, and that is quite literally one of the greatest video games ever made. These sorts of experiences aren't meant to run for hours and hours. They're a sensory bath that you submerge into. Spend too long in them and they lose their effect. But spend just the right amount of time, say 2 to 3 hours, and you're in every moment engaged. Sword of the Sea never wears out its welcome, and while it may not reach the highs of its contemporaries, it's a really wonderful way to spend 3 hours full of sights you'll not soon forget and a soundtrack you'll be listening to on repeat for many years to come. For those reasons and many more, I recommend it to you. Do you run your own business or do you want to? If so, a website is really helpful and there's no better or easier way to build a website than Squarespace. Let's say, for example, you have a store that sells stuff, I don't know, clothes, shoes, furniture, cell phones, whatever. That store exists in just one spot and you're probably only able to service your local area. But what if you could tap into a much bigger market? What if you had a website that lets customers find you no matter where they are? What if they could see your inventory online and make purchases? And what if you had a website that could facilitate all of that seamlessly? Well, that's exactly what Squarespace does. Squarespace lets you build professional-looking websites in minutes. You just select from their extensive list of pre-built templates, customize those templates to your heart's desire, and boom, an incredible-looking website that looks like it costs thousands of dollars to build, when in reality, you did it all yourself. That's just the front end, whereas business owners are going to be equally interested in the back end. Squarespace provides intuitive tools for inventory management, customized shipping options and label printing, simple payment solutions through platforms like PayPal and Stripe, and detailed analytics so you can track how well business is going. There's even award-winning customer support on hand to assist you should you ever get stuck or just need some advice. It's an easy-to-use end-to-end solution that could change your life, to be honest. A website is one of the best ways to get yourself or your business out there. So if you're thinking about kicking off something new, either personally or professionally, a website is certainly going to be a great step in that process. If you want to get started, then visit squarespace.com to start building your website through their free trial. And if you want to get serious, then use offer code SKILLUP at checkout for a 10% discount off your purchase of a website or a domain name. Thanks very much to Squarespace for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.